Thank you, Matthew. My name is Harold Pearson. I am an alcoholic. Tell you what, Matthew set this thing up here. I think it's got its eyes on me, but its eye going out that way too, so y'all have to be careful what you say. Thank you, Brad, for that introduction. You know, if I ever run for governor, I think I'll get Brad to be my campaign manager. Probably be a good move. I am grateful to be here tonight, and Brad talking about touching lives. You know, anytime I'm at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, my life is touched. I am a very blessed and fortunate person to have been, and I do believe that I was chosen for the gift of recovery, and I do believe it's a gift because I know so many people that die as a direct result of this illness, or they're still out there in a war zone trying to make it a day at a time, and as we all know, and someone mentioned about all the families that was here tonight, thank God for families, thank God for the program of Al-Anon also, but that the living torment they have to go through because of the disease of alcoholism. And I realize that I can come here tonight, and each meeting I go to, and each time I do, as Brad says, practice the principles of this program, that I'm treating a disease that it wouldn't take but half a pill to destroy my life, or a shot of whiskey, whatever a shot of whiskey is. I don't think we know what that was. We knew what the glasses or the bottles was. But to know that that's all I would have to do is to take that, and my life would be destroyed again. So yeah, being able to come here tonight and be touched by each and every one of you here is a blessing for me. I'd like to do a little commercial here right quick for the members of the primary purpose group who on alternating Friday nights, every other Friday night, it goes down to Samaritan Colony. Thank you for that. I try to thank you personally from time to time, try to send a note from time to time, but I have opportunity to say thank you tonight. I do believe, you know, our textbook talks about that psychic change, and I believe that as members of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, that in a fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, that we can bring about that psychic change. I believe we can do that. I've heard people tell me that as I'm talking to them, I say, what convinced you to come to, and they'll tell you not only what you do coming down to Samaritan Colony, but also your work the detox center. And they say, well, you know, some people came in from a group over in Southern Pines, and one of them mentioned that they had went to the colony and all, and I was going back home or whatever, and I decided maybe I need to do that also. So not only down at the colony, but the work you do in the detox, and also certainly in the rooms. But thank you for that. You know, we never know. And I believe if we can bring about a psychic change in a person's life through this fellowship, I believe that if they will follow the principles and the guidelines of the program that's laid out for us in that 164 pages, that spiritual awakening will happen. I don't think we can make it happen, but I do know those 164 pages can make that happen. So I'm grateful for that. Again, I'm grateful that I was chosen for the program. My home group is the Old Time Structure Group in Rockingham, and we meet on Wednesday night. We had a meeting last night, and I must admit I wasn't there. You know, that's something I very seldom do, is miss my home group meeting. But I was not there last night. But we meet every Wednesday night. Also, we have a speaker meeting to complement that Wednesday night discussion meeting. And it meets at 7 o'clock on Sunday. And we've had some great speakers right here from this group at that group. But you're always welcome if you're in the Rockingham. We meet in Samaritan Chapel. Again, that's 8 o'clock on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock on Sunday nights. My sobriety date is February the 21st, 1981. And why that date, I don't know. I was chosen, and that's the way it worked out. And when I walked in here tonight and saw the room set up this way, it seemed like other time I'm up here, it's over there. And the last time I spoke here was set up this way. And I have a tendency to want to get on this board and draw. I'm bad about drawing. I can draw a lot better than I can talk, and maybe I can talk if I'm drawing. So I don't know if you're trying to make me feel at home or not with this board. But anyway, My job tonight is to share with you my experience, strength, and hope as a result of the program and what happened in my life and how it is now. So I believe what the big book says, that when I was fortunate enough to after February 21st, 1981, when I decided a few weeks after that to do a fourth step, I was able to put myself down on paper and look at myself. And I believe what the book says when it talks about, in the doctor's opinion, about being irritable, restless, and discontented, as he describes alcoholism. It described me so well at an early age in my life, long before I started to put alcohol in my body. And when I say I was irritable, the home I was raised up in, it didn't pay off to be irritable. Not outwardly, but on the inside, and on the inside is where we had to live at. And I was restless, but I was raised up out in the country and had a lot of places to run and play and everything else. So it took care of a lot of that restlessness. But again, I was always discontented. I never was satisfied. It didn't matter where I was at. I wanted to be somewhere else. Some of you heard me tell about and I went through two sets of parents by the time I was 20 years old. I didn't have a lot of luck with parents, but my biological mother died when I was 2.5, and I was adopted. And these people were old enough to have been, and they were still part of the family, but I had a name change. But they were old enough to have been my grandparents, and I had a resentment about that because I thought they was old fogies and really didn't understand. And if I had younger parents, my life would have been different and all these things. But these people made a lot of sacrifices. I have some things, and they gave me these pedal tractor, and I had a fire truck with a little bell on it. All these things were pedal things. And I had a tricycle with a bed on the back, and things such as this. And I never remember getting on those things and actually pedaling them, because I found out that I could go faster pushing them. And it was, you're out in the country 3 miles from the closest little old community, and you really had nowhere to go but from one oak tree to another oak tree. But I would push them wide open from one place to the other. Now, again, this irritability, this restless and discontentment was on the inside. Later on in the big book, it talks about, that we were forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, and the scenery, and the rest of the players in their own way. And I started doing that at a very early age, again, before alcohol ever became part of, who I was or what I started putting it in my body. And thank God I did find it. I've heard people stand behind the podium and say, especially early on in the program, I hear people say, I'm grateful that I'm alcoholic. And I would think that old boy drank too long, and my God, why would he be grateful to be an alcoholic? I can stand here today and say, thank God I was an alcoholic, because had I not found alcohol, and I'm not proud of what happened after I found it and what I did and a lot of the things I did and everything, but I'm grateful I found it, because I would have not survived had I not found it. I couldn't deal with life on life's terms. And I was forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, and the scenery with the rest of the players. So this book was describing me before I ever started putting alcohol into my body. And through conning in manipulative ways, I started lying at a very early age, cheating, stealing, whatever. And again, when you're 3 miles out in the country from nowhere, there wasn't a whole lot to steal, But anyway, later on, as I got my first real job in the public. Now, I was raised up in the backer fields, peach orchards. I'd always worked since I was about 6 years old, so work never bothered me. But I got it first, I think at 14 back then, you could get your first work in public. You had to go to the health department and get a work card or some card where you could work. But and it was at a grocery store, and I started stealing things, because I didn't think the man paid me enough, and I'd have to give me a pack of cigarettes. I don't even know whether I was smoking or not, but I'd, get them because they was available and things such as this. So, started to do those things, and again, wanted things to be my way, and I always was wanting to escape some way or another. And again, most of this escaping was taking place on the inside of me, because again, this mother, she literally would tear my tail up, and thank God she did, because had she not had the firm hand on me, I would have probably been in back then they had training schools. I would have probably been in a training school, or I would have probably went to prison at an early age. And so I'm grateful for all that. I didn't appreciate it at the time. These things kept happening to me, and so forth. And then I finally found alcohol. And now, the first time I put alcohol in my body, I didn't get drunk. I didn't do crazy, insane things. But the first time I put out enough alcohol in my body, or got an opportunity to put enough alcohol in my body, I did crazy, insane things. And, when Cynthia said she was a backup, I thought she said a blackout. And I said, I said, she described my life right off the bat when I started drinking. I was a blackout drinker from the get-go. The first time I can remember well, it was a Sunday afternoon, and being a guy he's dead now, Bobo Till. We'd planned to drink that day, and that night before we'd got a case of beer and a couple of half pints of liquor. I was raised up right on the South Carolina line, so in South Carolina, half pints of liquors at the bootleg joints and so forth. Well, we got a case of beer, and it kept it cool in a creek that night, and that Sunday afternoon we had that case of beer in the back seat of my cousin's car, and we was taking a friend of ours, my cousin was taking him back up to Buies Creek. He was in Campbell College. And and what happened was, I don't know. I didn't. But we started drinking that beer and drinking that liquor and so forth. And I know I got drunk. And they say I got sick. I don't remember being sick. But like I say, it was blackouts. And from then until my last drunk, it was pretty well. Most times when I drank enough. I had blackouts. I did crazy, insane things. So wasn't nothing exciting about my story, through those years. But after that initial experience, and that was on a Sunday afternoon, that Monday at school, I heard Dave Sunday before last assuring that that after his first drunk, he was sort of popular. He had arrived, and people around school, again, a little small school. My God, there wasn't 400. Grades 1 through 12, seniors knew the first graders, so that's sort of kind of school it was. But anyway, they was talking about what Harold had done. The report had got back, and that I was crazy. I did crazy, insane things. Now remember, I'm trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the senior, and the rest of the players in my own way. So now I found something that will help me do it. And if I can't arrange them in my own way, all I got to do is take a drink, and it really doesn't matter what they do, because I'm getting what I want. And so. Now, I didn't become immediate drunk, alcoholic, whatever you want. I don't even know when I first heard the word alcoholic. I mean, it was just drunks. I remember people would talk about in town that Porter Herndon was a drunk. He was a town drunk. Well, later on, I'm grateful for Porter Herndon because he taught me how to drink hot beer in the morning. It was on a Sunday morning. I can remember it well. I went downtown and he flagged me down, and Porter was he was the type guy that he lived on disability, whatever it was back then, and he didn't get a lot of money, but after about the third of the month, that money was gone, and Porter just had to make it the best he could. And people would buy for him, and I guess at that early age I knew who to hang out with. But that Sunday morning, he flagged me down, and he said, "You got anything to drink?" And I said, "No," but I said, "I'm going up to Quicks up in the sand hills of South Carolina shortly." And I said, "I'll have something then." And he said, "Man," he said, "I'm about to die." And he was shaking bad. And I was about as bad shape he was. I was just younger. I wasn't about 18, 19. And he said, "Man, I'd do anything for a drink." I said, "Well, now I got some hot beer under the seat of the truck here, 4 or 5. He said, "Man, that's what I want." And I said, "You're going to drink it hot?" And he said, "Yeah." And he popped the top on that thing. It foamed a little bit. And he said, "Man, that's what you need. It'll stay down." And so here I am. So thank God for Porter Herndon. He taught me. But I drank through high school every opportunity I had to drink. And again, it was the same old thing. Get drunk, do crazy, insane things. Trying to keep this hid from my mother, in a small town, that's pretty tough, but I was able to. And in April of the year before I was to graduate that May, I got drunk. She had gone up to Charlotte to see Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Back then the big movies come out, they didn't play local until, well, the little town I was from, they didn't play at all. There wasn't no theater. But anyway, she wanted to see it, her and a friend of hers, so they went up to, and I knew she was going to be gone, so I planned to get drunk that day. And that afternoon before, I went again over to South Carolina and bought some creek liquor, white liquor, and I got drunk and I got crazy at school, and they had to get me away from school. But again, here I am, I'm still a good liar and all. By the time she got home, I knew I was in big trouble, but I came up with a lie that she believed. And she didn't believe that her son had been drinking. And I told her, I think it was Darvon or some kind. She was a nurse, and she, samples they had kept. Now, if I'd have wanted to have been a peel head back then, I would have been, man, I had it made, because in the doctor's office where she worked, I used to put up samples and stuff, and I didn't realize the power I had in my hand, but anyway, I had heard her talk about what those Darvon, I think it was Darvon, little old gray and pink peels, and I can see them now, a little old metal thing. But I said, Mom, I said my head was about to kill me at school this morning. I said, I came home, I said, I took, I don't know how many of them things I took, but I said, I'd heard you talk about, they were good for headaches or something. And I said, all I know is I was at school doing stuff crazy. She believed it, and she didn't like it, because the principal, now, he was one I could arrange any way I wanted to. Mr. Stillwell thought, he had. Throughout my life, I had a lot of people that had a lot of goals for me. You want to talk about potential or whatever. And what I didn't tell them was all I wanted to do was drink and act crazy. I didn't want to do those things. But he thought, I should do this and that and everything else. And he certainly didn't believe that. He was in the hospital, but the coach had took my bus license that day, and I should have. But anyway, I had to stay out of school 3 days. She got me reinstated, and I was able to graduate and so forth. Now, this same mother, in about a year and a half after that, I was in the military. She had decided I needed to go in the Air Force, and this is back in Vietnam time, so I went in the Air Force. And what happened was I was home on leave, and I don't know if I was fixing to go overseas or I was going to my next duty station, but I was home on leave. And I had made a commitment to Bill Bullard. Here's this store where I went to work at 14. I stole stuff for him and things such as this. I just stopped by to visit him, and he said, he said, can you work for me Saturday? Can you help me Saturday? And I said, sure, And I didn't know I was going to be so drunk and hungover I wasn't going to be able to work Saturday. When I told him that, and that Saturday morning she woke me up, and because if you make a commitment, you did it. And she said, you told Bill you was going to work. Said, you get up. And I got up, and as I was headed to the bathroom, I realized she smelled what I smelled like, and it wasn't good. And she just looked at me, and I know then that's when the realization that, what they told her about me at school and everything was true. Plus, I wasn't that boy that she thought I was, and so forth. And she looked at me, and she said, and she didn't say my biological father, but she said Wade. That was my biological father. He died when I was 18. He was alcoholic, and she said, you're just going to be just like your daddy. Said he would strain shoe polish through light bread, and drink it. And that had no impact whatsoever on me. I just thought, why in the world would he want to do that? Why didn't he get him some liquor and drink? I mean, that's what. And and of course I went in and washed my face and cleaned up, and I went to work because knew that was better than staying around home. I fulfilled my obligation. But my military career was nothing but a drunk. I got out of the military, and all I wanted to do was drink liquor and farm. My early 20s, I accepted the fact that I was a drunk. I decided that people I went to school with, they'd been dealt the hand of being a textile worker. They was dealt the hand of, getting married, doing the things they wanted to do, and have families and all. And I'd been dealt the hand of a drunk. But in my mind, I wanted to be a good drunk. Now, what is a good drunk? It was the one that was working. He wasn't like Porter. I didn't want to be like Porter. I liked Porter, but I didn't want to be like Porter. And so forth. So I set out, and you talk about acceptance. I had acceptance of that. Now what happened was I was the type drunk that would come to, and I knew where I was at. I knew exactly where I was at. I was in the cab of my truck. The way I was laying, the smell, and everything else, I knew I was there. So then I would open my eyes up and I look up through the windshield, and if I saw oak trees above my head, above the truck, I was happy because I knew I'd made it home. Now, if it wasn't nothing but open sky, fear come over me, and I had to lay back and shut my eyes real quick and try to think back to that last conscious thought of where I might have thought I'd been going, or where I'd hoped to go, or where I'd told somebody I was going. But as I lay there and I'd try to think, and I couldn't figure it out, and then I'd finally get the courage up to raise that head up and look over that dash and hope I would see something familiar. And sometimes I would see something familiar, and I knew I didn't need to be there either, but I would pray then that I didn't leave my lights on. Because when you park like that, a lot of times you leave your lights on. Sometimes you need to leave the ignition on, And another place I was bad about coming to was out in the middle of a soybean field. Now, why in the world I wanted to get in the middle of a soybean field, I don't know. And then you left your lights on, you left your your motor running, you're out of gas, and you got to go tell somebody, and you got to explain to them. And I finally got where, don't ask, just do me a favor, give me, But that's the way my life was. And and then I didn't want to be that way. I didn't want to be that way, but I didn't know how not to be that way. And I would start looking for ways to quit. But I was scared to quit because I didn't know what my life would be without alcohol. And then while I was overseas in the military, my mother had I was raised up in church, and I believed in praying, to help me get out of this, whatever it was I was in. Most of the time I didn't pray because I didn't remember, I'd pass out. I didn't go to, lay down and go to bed. I passed out. So, when you pass nights, you don't pray. Usually when you come to, you pray, like I say, pray that the lights wasn't left on or I didn't leave the ignition on. But anyway, I'd heard this church where my mother, and by this time my adopted mother was dead. I'd done gone through those two sets of parents. And I'd got me some more enablers though, and I was hanging out at my aunts and uncles sometime. They would bail me out and make a truck payment or something for me and all. And so anyway, what happened was I heard that there was going to be a revival up at this church where my membership had been moved to, and the talk was that it was going to be a reformed drunk. And that he was going to, be preaching. And they said that he had worked as a machinist, I think, and that he was holding revival that week. And I thought, I needed to go. I said, maybe he will say something, And I wasn't going to church. And again, I'd been raised up in church, but I wasn't going to church. That was the last place I wanted to go on Sunday morning. I went to Quick's Revival, to get them half pints of liquor to get revived. And so I went there that night, and sure enough, the band they said it was preaching, and he talked about, in his sermon that night. And I was about drunk, but I listened, and he talked some about, that how his life had been transformed because of it, from alcoholic into a person who had got called to the ministry and so forth. And I remember well, Miss Benfield, she was in the pew ahead of me, and she looked back there when they had the altar call, and now by this time I'd done got hot. I was ready to go. I wanted to go, and the church was pretty full, And I'm a nice drunk, I'm not going to step over people or anything. So she grabbed my hand, and she looked and she said, "Son, you need to go, don't you?" and here I am. And that's the reason I went. I thought something might happen. But anyway, I said, "No, ma'am, I don't." And she said, "I'm gonna go with you." And I said, "No, ma'am." I said, and she held on my hand, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get loose now? And I'm thinking that we can't go. And the thing was, I was scared to go because I was scared that if I went, that I wouldn't want nothing to drink when I went out of there. And I knew that when I went out of there, I was going to need something to drink. So I just made a revival one night. But again, this was my thinking, and time rolled on, and naturally I didn't quit. So here I am, I don't know, probably a year later or something, one Saturday afternoon. I was just tired of drinking. I was whipped, I was beat. I was tired of it. Now I'm still working. I'm a good honorable drunk. I'm still not like Porter. I'm able to buy my liquor. I'm not having a bum and stuff now. I had to on Monday morning, and I'm making pretty good money, but Monday morning I had to get cigarette money and stuff such as that to live off of during the week, but I'm still self-supporting. Now what happened was that Saturday afternoon I said, darn if I ain't got to quit some way or another. And so a bright idea hit my head, I need to call the law, get locked up. If they put me in jail, I won't drink. So sure enough, I called old Emerson down the old town of Gibson, and Emerson, he said, what? And I said, Emerson, I want to quit drinking. And, he knew that. I mean, he'd locked me up a couple of times. Good man. He's dead now, but he was a good man. Like I say, he had locked me up a couple of times for DWI. He had talked to me like I was his son, though, and so forth. But he said, well, what do you think I can do? And I said, I'll tell you what I want you to do. I said, I want you to come get me, take me to Laurinburg, lock me up. And I said, while I'm locked up, I said, I want you to find me some help. Now, if I'd have been thinking, I'd have thought that, Saturday afternoon ain't a good time to find help, to get somebody to quit drinking. But what happened was he came and got me, came out in the country, and here we go to Laurinburg. And and when I come to, I knew where I was at, and I vaguely remember why I was there. I had come to, I didn't know why I was there, but I vaguely remember. And by a few hours later, that wasn't a good idea I had. And of course, and I didn't know what time it was, but I knew they brought some breakfast around. I didn't want to eat it, so I knew it was, around 7 or something like that. Next thing I know, here they got some sandwiches and stuff like that. And I knew it was around noon, like that. And I said, my God, where is he at? Why ain't he coming? So that afternoon, about 5 o'clock, they come back there and got me, took me up front, and Emerson was there, and he said, Harold, I got some help. And he took me, he brought me home, and he said, what I want you to do, he said, I've called, and he said, you need to be at the mental health center in Laurinburg that Monday afternoon, so at a certain time. Well, I happened to be working in Laurinburg, so sure enough, I went to a mental old counselor, and he had me see a psychiatrist, and we did the deal and got me some Valium and Librium. And I mean, I was rocking by then. And and you had to go back, you had to keep your appointments to get your medicine and stuff. And so I would do that, and I would talk to the counselor. And then there were so many weeks, you had to see the psychiatrist, and he'd give me, more script for another Valium Librium. I don't need to drink. Now I went about 90 days. But what happened during those 90 days in my mind, this disease mind I got, what I was thinking about where I was going to play poker at night. Instead of liquor bottles or beer cans flipping in my head, I was seeing the cards flip and everything. I traded actually one addiction for another. And I mean, it was just that obsession. I had to be doing something, that irritability, restlessness, discontentment. And the only thing was settling it was, to be sitting there with them cards flipping. And what happened was, I stopped by the man that, he was a motel over in Laurinburg, and he was out of Clinton, South Carolina, the owner of the company. And of course, he drank, and we stopped by there to visit him that afternoon, and he said, darn, Harold, you ain't drinking, are you? And I said, no, and he poured him a drink. And I said, I'll tell you what, because see, this counselor had told me, I'd do the sessions with him and stuff. He said, and this is no reflection on him, he was just part of my story. But he certainly didn't know nothing about alcoholism, because he told me, he said, I believe we're going to get down to the root of your problems, and it's going to be in your childhood. And he said, one day you're probably going to be able to drink socially. And so I decided that was the day, and so anyway, he, poured me a drink and everything. And I remember, I couldn't wait to get to South Carolina, to get what I wanted. And again, it was, drunk, crazy, insane behavior after that. And this just progressed. And, fast forward, I wound up down in Georgia on a construction job, wound up getting married. I thought that was the answer, and wound up with my first child, and then had another child, and went back up to North Carolina about the time the second one was born, and in October 1977, I went to my first AA meeting over in Aberdeen, and it was on a Tuesday night. Like I say, it was October 1977. And the only thing I really remember was somebody put a cup of coffee in my hand. I set it on the floor immediately because I couldn't handle it. But they told me that not try to pick up a white chip that night. Wait till the next night down in Rockingham. And at that time on Wednesday nights, and on Sunday nights was a complimentary speaking meeting, but they had a discussion meeting at the Presbyterian Church where we meet on Saturday nights and Monday nights now. And what happened was I picked up that white chip, and the next year I went to meetings, probably the next 13 months. I went to meetings and didn't drink. Now, I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't work steps. I went to meetings. I read the book. I read the book and I identified. I knew I was an alcoholic. I knew, and I was just amazed with the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the people that were in it. And I believed what they said, and I realized their lives had changed because of this program, and I believe that. But like I say, I didn't buy into doing step work. I didn't buy into getting a sponsor because I thought if I got a sponsor and told him what was going on in my life and what was on the inside, because see, you remember, the stuff that was on the inside, now, gosh knows, it produced so much guilt and shame in my life that when because, again, I was a good kid, but still, when you're trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, and the scenery, and the rest of the players in your own way, and if you're not actually doing it physically, you're doing it in your mind, mentally, and everything else, a lot of stuff was going on. I thought, I tell anybody all this kind of stuff, man, they would tell me, man, you probably don't belong here. And I wouldn't, I didn't get the sponsor, and like I say, didn't work steps. But I went to meetings and didn't drink, and eventually picked up a blue chip. And then I spoke. After about 13 months, they asked me to speak. I think about an hour and 45 minutes that night. We're gonna do the brief version tonight. Don't worry. But because Matthew got this thing on me here. But anyway. I graduated and quit going to meetings and went about 18 more months and didn't drink any beer or liquor or do any other crazy stuff. But I drank a right good bit of NyQuil there for a while, and I knew why I was drinking the NyQuil because it was it had the alcohol in it. And I remember that from AA. They said cold medicine, cough syrups, and all those kind of things. I remembered what they had said, and I knew exactly why I was drinking that NyQuil because I had to settle that irritability, restlessness, and discontent that was on the inside. What happened in June of 1980, I drank a bottle of spirits of ammonia, a little brown bottle again. Porter Hearn or some of them drunks there in Gibson had taught me that when I was working at the B&B market. I'd see them come in there in the morning, Saturday morning shaking, and they'd get that bottle of spirits of ammonia and a Coca-Cola and pour half that Coca-Cola out and pour that spirits of ammonia in there. And a little bit, they'd settle down, and I'd remember that, and here I am. But I'd never got on a drunk with it. But I walked into, I bought a store, I had a masonry business, and I thought I was going places fast, after AA, and not drinking and all. And I bought a country store too, and by this time I had a third child. And I walked in there and I said, y'all about to worry me to death. I got me a Coca-Cola, got me a bottle of ammonia, and I poured half the Coca-Cola out, drank that ammonia. My wife, and I guess if they were worrying me to death, they decided they'd leave. They went home, and I got me another one and drank it. And I knew, and I just said to myself, I know exactly what I want now. And I went to South Carolina. Here I go over to Quicks. Woke them up. They'd already, shut down. And I woke them up, and I said, give me 3.5 pints of 100 proof Smirnoff. And they asked me, said, Lauren's on another drunk. And I said, no. I said, I'm getting this for me. And they looked at me, they said, Harold, please don't start back drinking. I said, you were doing so well. They thought I was doing well, but see, they didn't know that irritability, restlessness, and discontentment and everything that was on the inside. They did not know that, and they said, please don't start back. And I said, I have got to. And I did. I had to. I don't think I would have made it another day had I not. What happened, I lay drunk 3 days, and what happened after that was I come to, and again, I remembered what I'd heard in AA about the progression of this illness, and I said, my God, I used to could drink and work. I could, I could feel bad, but I could work. But I said I couldn't even work for 3 days. I said, they were right about this thing. Now, I didn't come back to AA, I didn't call nobody in AA. What I did, I started slipping around here, there, and everywhere else, and I stayed drunk for 8 months. And then, like I say, February 21st of 1981, my brother on Saturday morning took me out to Samaritan Colony. And what happened at that time was, one, I stayed, and after a period of time, I found the courage to do an inventory. I found the courage to put on paper my life and look at that stuff from early age and everything. And that's why I say, when the big book talks about the, selfishness, self-centeredness being the root of our troubles, that was me. I could see it so well. And I remember when I did that fifth step, the guy I did the fifth step with me, I'd written it out on a legal pad, and he pulled the things out to the side and would this is selfishness, self-centeredness, this is jealousy, and all those defects of character. And see, I thought I was an okay guy, really. I knew I'd been dishonest. I knew I'd stolen, but it wasn't nothing bad. My God, I didn't go in with a gun. I didn't beat people up to take their stuff. I didn't break in to get their stuff. I just got it. And everything, but it wasn't that bad in my mind, because again, this is where I lived in my mind and on the inside. And I thought I was a pretty good guy, and I'd heard people say, I was a good guy. I mean, people, I'd always been a salesman. If you're arranging the lights, the ballet, and the scenery, and the rest of the players in your own way, you got to be a pretty good salesman. And people would, again, these people would talk about the potential I had or the goals they had for me. I mean, my God, I'd probably been up in Washington today if I'd have done what Dr. Gibson, he's dead now, but what he, the things he thought I could do or had, so forth. But anyway, we put all that stuff on paper and everything, and it wasn't good at all. But this was, getting it out, the fifth step part of it that I had elected not to even try to do any step work. And we was talking about S-Team coming over here, and a good friend of Bob is, and I remember S-Team sitting in the meetings. I know Tom remembers S-Team Turner as well, and Steve, somebody. But S-Team would talk about simple programs and a simple set of steps. And I think, oh boy, you don't know. This was my first go-around in 1977. I thought, you ain't reading the same book I'm reading, not the same steps and everything. But what happened, I got through with that, and, I proceeded with the rest of the steps and doing the things that I needed to do. And I had an opportunity to go to work there at that treatment center. No little miracle in my life. I don't know why it happened. It just happened, and it was God's grace. And what happened was I was able to start building a relationship with God, and I believe that was so important. See, I was raised up now, and you lay me down to sleep and things such as that. I believed in God and so forth, but I had to have a relationship with God, and that took time. I couldn't snap my fingers. It wasn't, going to and don't get me wrong, I believe in going to the altar, and I believe in the church and so forth, but I had to have more than that. I had to have that feeling, and I found it in rooms like this, at times like this, and so forth, and through that relationship was built. And, I started the amend-making process and so forth, and I'm still in the amend-making process today as far as that goes. But, I had to be taught humility because I still, had some arrogance and grandiosity and stuff such as that, and still think I was a little bit different. And one of the early lessons was, again, this wife, 3 kids, and I didn't, I didn't know how to be a husband. I didn't know how to be a father. I didn't know how to do any of that kind of stuff. And so forth, and it was rocky the first year and a half, and then it was really rocky until we wound up divorced. But it did have some good times there. But one of the things was realize I needed a car, and I'd sort of ruined my credit. And there's some miracles that I've been able to buy a home and buy a new car eventually and stuff such as this. Maybe I'll tell you about that. But anyway, I knew that I couldn't buy it. Nobody was going to loan me money. They wasn't going to sell me anything. And this policeman down in Gibson, Emerson, he also had a used car lot, just a few cars that he would buy and sell down in Darlington and sell on the side. And I used to look at people, I'd look down my nose at them. They would have to buy those vehicles from him and pay by the week. He wouldn't trust them for a whole month with that vehicle. They had to go in there weekly and pay. And I thought, that's sorry, that you ain't no better than that. Well, here we are needing a vehicle, and I didn't know nowhere to go and everything. I went down there and talked to Emerson, and we came up with a old blue Plymouth Valiant. When you raised the hood, you could tell it'd been a state car because they had them state numbers up under the hood. And people picked at me about it and so forth. But anyway, I got that thing, and we worked it out where I could pay $25 a week. I could mail them a check. I didn't have to go down to Gibson and give them that check. And I got that car, and it was going to take a little over a full year to pay for it. And I told him, I said, if I make some extra money and something, I'll try to double up and get this thing paid for in a year. And that year, I think I missed 1 week. I couldn't make the payments, and I contacted him, and it worked out. And it probably took me about 13 months actually to pay for that car. But I had to go that, and I thought, now here I am. I'd look down at these people and everything, but a little lesson in humility and so forth. Now, fast forward a few years, and people was telling me, boy, you need to buy your home. And I thought, ain't no way I can buy no home. Y'all just don't know me. You don't know what I've done. As far as my credit now, all that stuff come out on fifth step, but I'm not, I didn't broadcast it, that I wasn't too credible. But anyway, what happened was they finally just stayed on me. I said, well, I'll just let them, I'll go to the savings and loan, and I did. I went over to Hamlet and went through the motions of, getting the loan approved. I found the house and stuff. And this was in the spring of the year, and sure enough, they approved me for it. I couldn't believe it. I really could not believe it. And this was in the spring of the year. I didn't believe it was true. I really did not believe it was true. And I wouldn't buy the house because I was scared. I was really scared. I was scared, my gosh, and I didn't buy the house. That summer, here I am again, big-headed. I decided, this is back when it started leasing vehicles, first time years ago, and it got real popular, lease vehicles, and I decided I wanted me a truck, and so I went and did the paperwork and everything. Knew I was going to get this truck, and I wasn't thinking about the wife and 3 kids and so forth. I was thinking about me, and I believe I picked out a red truck too, that I was going to get, and knew I was going to get it, and the man knew I was going to get it, and sure enough, that night, that afternoon, I kept waiting because I knew he was going to call me to come pick it up before the day was over with, and he called me and said, I don't know what happened, but you're not approved. God knows, resentment, and I'm thinking, why? Well, that fall, I finally went through with the loan to get to buy that home. And so, then I knew why I was not able to get that truck, because I could not have been able to pay for that truck and so forth. And I could stand here and tell you miracles after miracles after miracles of things that's happened in my life because of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. But remember, I told you, selfishness, self-centeredness was root of my problem. Forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, and the senior and the rest of my players in my own way. Well, what I used to do as a kid, and every once in a while I had a chance to go to a zoo, and I remember one time I was at Busch Gardens. I had an aunt and uncle lived in Tampa. Went down there and spent a few weeks that summer and went out to Busch Gardens a couple times. And I could just sit for hours and watch monkeys in a cage, and just enjoy it. And, a monkey ain't doing nothing but entertaining. I mean, that's, they're just full of themselves. And I would think, if in reincarnation or something, I would like to come back as a monkey. Because, really, you see all those people around the monkey cage watching a monkey perform and all. I said, that's what I would like to. But here a couple of years ago, and I was at the fitness center here in Rockingham one Saturday, and there was a man in there who's legally blind. And he had his CNI dog with him. And as I was sitting there working on this machinery, and I kept looking at that dog over there, and I've always been a lover of dogs and so forth. And I thought, what hit my mind? If I come back as an animal, I'd like to come back as a CNI dog, because I thought that had to be, that dog is really special. And that I saw that man last Saturday, and that dog that I, was so impressed with that. Saturday has had to be replaced because he's sort of aged out and he's got a new dog and everything. And I thought, well, maybe you could be a replacement dog or something like that. But that's what the program of Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me. That it's took me from wanting to be a monkey, entertaining and everything, to be a dog that would just, be satisfied sitting quietly while somebody worked out and being able to provide them a way, a path for where they needed to go. I've stood up here and run my mouth long enough now. It's time for me to sit down. Thank you for the opportunity. Brad, I appreciate you asking me. Congratulations on all these people who are picking up the chips. That's what the meeting's really about. It's certainly not about who's speaking or anything else, but thank you.